start the meeting. Andy, would you care to call the roll, please?
Sure.
William Collins,
Here.
Brian Hartman, Stephen Miller,
Present. All right, we have a forum, call this meeting to order. Yeah. Meeting of the Groundwater Use Advisory Council for the Active Management Area. And welcome everybody here. We're going to have a public discussion. India, if you would, go ahead and watch us think so we should.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Pinal Groundwater Users Advisory Council meeting. My name is Kennedy Shepard. I'm the Groundwater Users Advisory Council Coordinator. We're just going to go over a few webinar logistics. This meeting is being hosted hybrid, so we do have people online. So we do ask from our council members and members of the public that when it is your turn to speak, to make sure your microphone is on, you speak loudly and clearly, so that way everyone online can hear you as well. For those of you joining us online, we do request that you remain muted. This helps with our audio feedback. If you would like to speak during the call to public, please put your name in the chat and you can unmute yourself and speak to the council. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council, for allowing me a moment to share this announcement and publicly thank and acknowledge Kennedy Shepard. I've worked with some incredibly talented, driven, and service-minded people at the department, but none more so than Kennedy. She's been the GUAC coordinator for a little over 3 years, and in that time has navigated transition to virtual meetings, back to in-person, all at the highest level. Kennedy's organized every GUAC meeting across all the AMAs, led the way on updating AMA records management processes, and received recognition from the director for her efforts to reduce our conveyance application backlog. She's accomplished all this while attending graduate school full-time, where she recently completed her MBA. Her success has led to opportunity, and I'm proud and a little bit sad to announce that Kennedy's accepted a position as the agricultural demand analyst on our new supply and demand team. She started that transition already, and this will be her last GUAC meeting. So I wanted to thank you, Kennedy, and congrats and good luck. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. On behalf of the members, Shepard, sorry to see you leave. Look forward to all your emails.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to item 1, which is all interrupted by everyone.
So I believe it's me. I see my slides coming up, but I have to say it is exceptionally difficult to hear. I really can't hear the chair. I heard Kennedy when she was speaking. Kyle, you were a little bit difficult to hear as well. So for those in the room, do please remember to speak directly into a microphone. But with that aside, good morning. My name is Kristen Johnson. I'm the Colorado River Programs Manager at ADWR, and I will be providing you with a brief update on the hydrology conditions in the Colorado River Basin. So we can go to the next slide. So I believe everybody within the committee should be familiar with this teacup diagram. It is one of our regularly presented slides. Do note that these slides were updated on April 3rd, so some of the precise volumes might be off by a couple of feet here or there, but the percentages, I assure you, are up to date. I will not go through all of the elevations for the upper basin reservoirs. You can see the percentages there are on your screen. I will highlight, however, the two major reservoirs that we pay attention to. Lake Powell is currently sitting at 23% of capacity with about 5.4 million acre feet. And Lake Mead is currently sitting at 28% capacity with 7.4 million acre feet and an elevation of 1,046 feet, and that is measured against mean sea level. You can see in the orange box there on the screen that the total system storage is currently at 32%, and compare this to total system storage this time last year, where we were at 35%. Next slide. Again, this slide was updated as of April 4th. So if we were looking at conditions as of today, we would be sitting at roughly the same snowpack equivalency. This chart shows the snowpack in the total basin, particularly focused on the upper basin, which is of course where the majority of our unregulated inflow comes from. You can see the purple line is the median, the blue line is our current year, 2023, green was last year, and our previously high for the past 30 years is 2011, shown in red. So we have actually exceeded the 2011 median, and we are at about 153% of snowpack, and now we are starting to move more into the runoff season. So what we'll be looking for as we move into the warmer months is how quickly that blue line takes a downward turn. Are we going to be seeing a nice slow runoff? Are we going to see, moderate and mild temperatures in the upper basin, allowing for that snowpack to really soak into the soil and help support the antecedent soil conditions? Or is the upper basin going to get hot quickly and that blue line might take a dramatic turn downward and we see quick runoff? I will note, you'll see that call out box on the right hand side of the graph. The April through July projected runoff forecast as of April 5th was increased to 11.3 million acre feet, which is quite an increase. And I will also note that just recently, this week, the entire water year forecast was increased and bumped up to an incredible 4.47 million acre feet. So this is quite a nice water year that we're seeing in the upper basin. And of course, we all are well aware that the Salt Verde system is also doing very well, but that moisture in the Salt Verde system does not really contribute to the Colorado River Basin. But again, we've got excellent conditions in the upper basin, and we are looking for a nice bump into the reservoirs this year. Let's go to the next slide. This slide shows the unregulated inflow into Lake Powell over the last, 40 years, since 1964. Those light blue bars are what the inflow actually totaled out to be. And then we've got those red, green, and dark blue bars on the right-hand side of the graph. Those represent the min, most, and max probable as they are projected by the Bureau of Reclamation. Again, we've got a little bit of dated information here. You can see as of March, this graph was produced March 3rd by the Bureau of Reclamation. The most probable water year total projected inflow was sitting at 10.87. And as I just told you on the last slide, this past week they bumped it up to 14.4. So we are seeing a lot of variability as we're continuing to get good snow up in the upper basin. We are starting to see some snow melt. So unless we have some late season snowstorms up in the upper basin, we'll probably see that runoff start to hit Lake Powell. So again, this slide a little bit dated, but it is the best information that we had in terms of giving you all a slide. So that call out box that you see there where it says 12.92, again, it is currently sitting at 14.4 million acre feet. Next slide. Okay, and I hope that folks in the committee are somewhat familiar with these plots. These are the 24-month study plots. Again, these are produced by the Bureau of Reclamation around the middle of each month, and they project conditions forward for 24 months. We're currently looking at the projections for Lake Powell. Again, the red being the min probable, the green being the most probable and the blue being the max probable. I will note that the blue max probable is from January projections, and the red and the green are from March. Again, we have slightly dated information. We expect to get updated projections sometime next week. But again, looking at these elevation projections for Lake Powell, we are currently towards, looking all the way through calendar year 24 and even into 25, we're looking very good. We see that min probable, that red dashed line, only falling below elevation 3525 at Lake Powell, starting in 2025. Now, had I shown you the slides from, say, November or even December for comparison, we would have seen that red min probable line falling, very close to that dashed horizontal line. You see that min power pool elevation. Just several months ago, we were skirting that minimum power pool line in Lake Powell, and that was causing a lot of concern. But as you can see, we've really bumped up those projections thanks to the healthy water year that we're having in the upper basin. And if we go to the next slide, now we're looking at Lake Powell. These are the same projections, the min, most, and max. You see a more narrow band of probability for Lake Powell because Lake Powell is, for Lake Mead, because Lake Mead is largely affected by the releases from Lake Powell and not as much from side inflows. We see a much narrower band of probability. Again, had I shared with you this same plot from, say, November or December, we would have been looking much more at a tier 3 shortage condition, probably certainly for next year. However, if you follow the green dashed line and you look, at 2024, we're sitting pretty much squarely in a tier 2 shortage condition for next year. I will point out again, these plots were generated in March, and we will expect to see an additional bump up when we get new projections issued next week from the Bureau of Reclamation for the April 24-month study. Operating decisions for next year are made in August at the August 24-month study. So there is still quite a bit of uncertainty left in the year for where we might finally end up in terms of operating conditions for next year. But I would say we are still likely to be in some level of shortage. The water year and that snowpack up in the upper basin is doing a lot of good. However, one good water year is not going to save the system. And I hope that that message is getting conveyed loud and clear. If you all were watching the news yesterday, then you should know that the Bureau of Reclamation issued a supplemental environmental impact statement yesterday. That effort was really kicked off at the end of last calendar year when we were looking at very dire projections, looking at, again, falling below power pool up at Glen Canyon Dam, looking at severe shortages here in the lower basin. And the actions that are potentially outlined in that SEIS are really meant to, again, protect the system. And this wet water year has bought us some time and will hopefully bring all of the basin states together to look for a consensus negotiated solution. So the last slide that I have to share with you is just to say there may be additional questions about that SEIS and the information that is contained therein. I certainly have not even had a chance to read, the first page of it. It's about 500 pages, but there is a meeting on Monday of the Arizona Reconsultation Committee where folks from the department and from the Central Arizona Water Conservation District will be presenting to the members of the Arizona Reconsultation Committee information about what's in that environmental document. And at the end of that meeting, there is an opportunity for a call to the public. So that meeting will be held in person at CAP headquarters and it will be live streamed. So I encourage you to attend in person if you can, or attend virtually. And again, there will be an opportunity for a call to the public at the end of that meeting. So with that, I will be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Do any of the members have questions? Hearing none, thank you, Ms. Johnson, for your presentation. More reassuring about with that, we'll move on to item 5, securing the water bank. Back up.
Okay, thank you for unmuting me. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Rebecca Bernat. I am the Technical Administrator of the Arizona Water Banking Authority, and I am here today to talk about, to give information regarding the role of the Water Banking Authority in the Pinal AMA after 2026. I believe that is what was posted on the agenda. So, as many of you know, the water bank was created to store an unused portion of Arizona-Colorado River entitlement. And while there is no more excess CAP water available to the water bank for storage and for creation of long-term storage credits, we are authorized to purchase long-term storage credits. After 2026, the water bank anticipates developing long-term storage credits in the Pinal AMA. It's very unlikely that excess CAP supplies will be available to the water bank for storage at GSF after 2026. However, the water bank could still acquire long-term storage credits in the AMA. So starting in 2027, the water bank plans on using withdrawal fees collected from the Pinal AMA to purchase long-term storage credits. These credits we plan on acquiring, on purchasing, could be used for groundwater management benefits. They could be used for engine firming and also to firm CPM&I subcontractors. I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you. Do any members have questions? I do have one question, that is, what will we be requiring the long-term long-term credits from the part of this from this AMA or suppliers from suppressors by as long as the storage credits?
I am very sorry, I couldn't hear the question. Is there maybe a microphone?
Yeah, the microphone is on, but I have a voice that tends to disappear in the background, so I apologize for that. The question is, will you be acquiring those long-term storage credits from within the AMA that already exist here? Or will you be bringing them outside storage credits somehow into the AMA?
Thank you for repeating the question. I heard the first part of the question, and yes, the answer is yes, we would purchase long-term storage credits that have already been created in the Pinal AMA. So this is water that has already been stored, or perhaps it is water that is currently being stored and in the Pinal AMA.
Thank you. Mr. Riggins.
Follow up to the answer and also the question. The long-term storage credits that already exist within the Pinal AMA are already owned by entities. when they put the water down here. The water bank has some, but by far the biggest part of it is owned by outside entities. So I don't know how your answer applies to that concept.
I'm very sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
I know, I must say to you, in my lifetime, very few people said I speak softly. Doesn't really happen to me very often. But I'll get right up here. And I will ask, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. That's much better.
Okay, very good, thank you. He was asking concerning the question of the chairman and your answer to him about the acquisition of long-term storage credits. The long-term storage credits that exist within the Pinal AMA, other than that portion owned by the water bank, are owned by somebody. The water they put here gave them those credits. So when you say that more credits are going to be acquired, are you going to be buying credits from the holders of the credit to put into the water bank? Is that what you're inferring?
Yes, so we would, I'm not sure I understand the.
So, okay, hello, good morning. My name is Aisha Bora. I'm counsel for the Arizona Water Banking Authority. So the question was, the water bank has some credits in the Pinal active management area. There are many other credits that are owned by other entities. And so would the water bank be planning to try to purchase long-term storage credits from other entities that own those long-term storage credits in the Pinal AMA?
Okay, thank you very much for
And
clarifying.
while you're still there, when the water bank owns more credits, what will be the net effect of using those credits? Are they going to be pumping water here? We don't have a CAP offset anymore. So how will the use of those credits begin affecting the Pinal AMA?
So, and please.
I'll start answering
Yes.
the first question, that if we were to purchase credits, we would purchase them from from entities that have currently long-term storage credits on their long-term storage credit account. So yes, we will be purchasing credits from current owners of long-term storage credits. And to that second question.
And then after you purchase them and they're yours, how are they going to be utilized?
Well, we could, there are many ways in which we could utilize these credits. We could use them for groundwater management benefits, meaning we could decide to extinguish the credits. We could use them for engine firming. And we could also use them for CAP M&I subcontractors to firm these subcontractors during years of shortages.
And those credits would solely be used within the interior boundaries of the Pinal AMA.
Yes, that is correct.
But they very well are going to include actual physical pumping of wet water and delivery, particularly if you're using this as a firming exercise. So there'll need to be infrastructure created. There'll need to be a lot of things happen.
Credits would need to be pumped in order to be recovered. And potentially infrastructure may be needed to recover or remove that water.
Right, yes, so that is sure, that is yes, the question of recovery is it's an important part of what the water bank does. We are not allowed to perform recovery. That is why we have a partner, and CAP is our recovery partner. So when the time will come for us, for example, to firm CAP M&I subcontractors, what we would do, we would transfer credits that we have on our account, and we would transfer these credits to CAWCD's account, and then CAWCD would be allowed to pump water to distribute it. That's how the recovery that's how it would work. And I believe CAWCD has agreements at different GSFs in the Pinal AMA to recover these credits.
Well, I do believe that with the chairman's permission, I do believe that we are coming to a point in time in the use of water in the Pinal AMA where potentially an on-site presentation at a GOAC meeting in the not too distant future, that we actually have a presentation with a full discussion so the public at large and the GOAC members can truly understand how this is going to unwind and what type of challenges we're going to face, because the utilization of these long-term storage credits that have been accruing in this AMA for decades is something that is going to be a very new concept, what it's going to cause and the challenges to the water supply here. And I do suggest that other than a short report as we've just gone, I would certainly think that we are time of a full, large, in-person discussion on the Arizona Water Banking Authority and long-term storage credits really is a topic that would be germane to have the GUAC presented to them as soon as possible, actually.
Chair Collins, members of the council, I will take this request into consideration, and I will also add that as part of our plan of operation, development of our annual plan of operation, I will be presenting the preliminary plan of operation, the 2024 preliminary plan of operation at the GUAC meeting in September, as we do every year. I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mueller, Scott, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to add on to Mr. Riggins' thoughts that even with this presentation, if we had kind of an accounting of who has the long-term storage credits, so we can see the numbers and actually have an idea of who has them and where they're at, and would go a long ways in helping to really better understand this. So I think that the presentation he suggested, along with that type of information, would be beneficial to this group.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. We tend to concur with you on that. I have some other concerns of my own as it relates to the water being stored over that. We were going to call here in the future how that's going to be handled. So, and California, we've already given up, but we still have a lot of Nevada water sitting. So if we can have that scheduled for the next upcoming GUAC meeting sooner than later, I would certainly appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Burnett, for your presentation. Look forward to seeing you in the future. That will move on to item number 6, which is the Pinal County Water Irrigation Authority update by Mr. Singleton. Joe, you would.
Test. Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
It's been a little while since we had a chance to address the GUAC, so thank you for that opportunity. For those of you who may not be as aware of our organization, we were formed in the early 1990s by statute in Title 45 years ago. To kind of look at documentation issues for this region, which some local leaders were at a growing concern about it. This happened a little before the Central Urban Water Replenishment District was formed, so it was in that time frame when we were beginning to put some framework in place to prepare to take on the challenges. So our board of directors is made up of a representative from each of our member entities. It's most of the municipalities in Western Pinal. It's two of the big CAP districts, MSIDE and Central Arizona. Mr. Collins represents the domestic water improvement district on the board. And we have representation from the two biggest private water companies in our, or the little water company in global. So it's really a big cross section of the water use in this area. No surprise to anybody that the challenges in this area have always been a renewable supply of groundwater use and how that relates to agriculture and how that relates to agriculture. So over the last few years and continuing until now, the Augmentation Authority has been supporting the Pinal Shared Water Supply Stakeholders Group by making significant financial contributions to groundwater modeling, wellfield optimization, and simulations within the model. In addition, we have provided financial resources to allow the technical team to respond to ADWR following the stakeholder group's submittal of recommendations to the ADWR concerning how the Shared Water Supply Program works in this area. We have increased our lobbying footprint by hiring professional staff to oversee our efforts, during which we've met with legislative leaders, staff from the governor's office, supported the land legislation, and tried to run our own legislation to, in part, start to address the need to have renewable supply certification. From fall of 2021 to the fall of 2022, we had a bracketed water study done. There's a lot of focus down here on water quantity, and justifiably so. This study focused more on water quality and how these waters could be treated for different uses. So it'll provide a roadmap to where these supplies are, how salty they are, and based on what we came to find out was pretty good, but an improvement data set from the consultant that did the study with us. Towards the end of last year, we joined the Bartlett Dam modification group that is exploring the possibility of raising the height of Bartlett Dam in the Phoenix area. That exploration is being led by SRP for their own reasons that they have with Portview silting up. But contemplating raising the height of the dam could allow for extra water to be captured in that part of the SRP system. So the authority is participating, and many of the other participants are participating with the hope that the resulting project will allow for additional waters to be captured and used, be made a bigger part. So the particular phase of the project that we're in now will probably last another 4 years, hopefully with the construction. I say hopefully we need that construction to actually cap the water supplies. It leads to other challenges for the authority, and we might pay for extra construction. And during the last several months, we committed to start cloud seeding study for the region. We don't have a graphic report yet because the work is so low new, but some of the feedback that we're starting to get from the preliminary work, we're hearing significant things about the increasing rainfall. They've done similar work up in the Phoenix and other places in the state, what called winter cloud seeding, which obviously leads to snowpack, which leads to the kind of surface water running that we're used to finding. So this would be a little different. Each region looks like it probably looks itself more of the summer season. So we don't get the runoff into the river systems. We would get a break maybe on some irrigation for our ag friends. And over the long term, hopefully some aquifer augmentation. So those are some of the activities that we've been involved with.
Thank you, Mr. Singleton. Do the members have any questions for Joe Singleton? Hearing none, thank you, Joe. Appreciate the presentation. Let's move this on to number 7, which is a for information, discussion, and action presentation by the Pinal AMA Irrigation Management Service by Mr. Eddie Rodriguez. Eddie, if you would.
Okay. Irrigation Management Service is a program formed in 1987 by GUAC, the Green Natural Resource Conservation District, the Eloy, West Pinal, and Florence Coolidge, NRC, along with NRCS and DEW. The purpose of the program was to help producers in the Pinal AMA determine the most efficient techniques to achieve maximum irrigation efficiency on existing irrigation systems. In fiscal year 2022, IMS did 14 standard evaluations, single evaluations with a follow-up. We did 4 turf evaluations with turf farms and parks, and 6 seasonal evaluations in the Pinal AMA. IMS provides the farmer with educational resources and techniques to save water. The irrigation management service goal is to help farmers fine-tune their irrigation scheduling, whether it's shifting irrigation a day or 2, depending on plant water needs. When you add those days up in the season, it usually eliminates irrigation, therefore reducing costs and increasing the water use. IMS also helps the Department of Water Resources with the Best Management Practices Program, which is 174 farm units, 86,000 acres. We hold 4 BMP cooperative meetings in February and March of every year at a local irrigation district. At these cooperative meetings, we review cooperatives' previous BMP practices and any updates on any changes. We also assist producers with scheduled BMP form for their annual report. We look at the upcoming year's crop schedule, and this past year we had to redo the worksheets because of the fourth management plan. So we assist the cooperative with that. This coming year, we're going to go into the fifth management plan, and I think we have to redo all worksheets on that one. So we'll have to deal with the DWR on a plan to get that achieved. We also work with NRCS on their irrigation and water management on farms under coster programs like EQUIP. And we have a sister program, which is the Natural Resource Education Center out at Central Arizona College, and we help them also. They got some acres out there, 4 acres, and they plant crops throughout them. And that's our report for this past fiscal year. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Do members have any questions for Regan's on his presentation? I did have one question. Notice you have 1 full-time employee and 1 part-time administrator.
Yes.
What does that part-time administrator do other than for IMS?
She works, it's myself, Robin Keeling, and Patricia Kaywood. We share her, Patricia with our clerk, district clerk, and we share her with NRCS and the 3 district. Robin does all the paperwork, I do field work, and if I need help out in the field, Robin can do field work.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Eddie? Hearing none, thank you. Appreciate your presentation. Let's move this on to item number, no, excuse me, on to the WMAP balance by Mrs. Sykes. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, council members and members of the public. So I'll be going over the Water Management Assistance Program fund balance, the status of the DCP groundwater conservation grants, and introduce. Will not be introducing the WMAP funds renewal, but they've already done that, excuse me. So the current balance is $424,901, and of that, $30,000 is committed to the Natural Resources Education Center, leaving a balance of $354,101. If we renew the irrigation insurance service for $120,000 and fund GUAC for $200,000, we'll be left with $74,901 in WMAC funding. We expect to collect about $335,000 annually. However, at the current rate, the Pinal AMA fund will be depleted by 2028. And this is just updated with information based off of our current annual reporting season. We're still missing some irrigation districts, so that would increase. So projects that are currently funded with the WMAP funds are the Irrigation Management Service, the Natural Resources Education Center, and the Pinal County Water Augmentation Authority. The Pinal County Water Augmentation Authority project is dictated in statute to receive up to $200,000 on an annual basis. So next, I will give you an update on the groundwater conservation grants. Both projects are ongoing. The using project-based STEM education to enhance groundwater conservation in Pinal County schools has a remaining balance of $32,681, and the leak detection equipment replacement project is currently undergoing amendments. I'll give that back to you, Mr. Chair.
I do have a question for you on the leak detection equipment replacement project. Notice that it seems to be static, not moving forward. Hasn't been any funding requests, and the contract ends in a couple of years, but doesn't seem to be any movement on funding.
Sure, we actually had a meeting with them recently to discuss some of their options. We haven't met with our team yet internally to discuss what those options could be. From what we understand right now, the previous amendment that they had was to accept funding from the Maricopa Stanfield Irrigation Drainage District that had withdrawn from the project. So the current amendment was to amend that, providing the additional funding as well as extend some of the dates. We met with them yesterday. They informed us that some of that funding, that they don't have a need for that funding. So we're going to meet with our team internally to see what we can do with that.
Is there an expiration date on those funds that be utilized by?
Not that I'm aware of,
I
no.
was thinking by statute that they had a timeline that they had to be obligated to use by.
I can't recall that exactly. I know that I believe they had to be executed within the same fiscal year. And they were all executed, all these contracts were executed within in year 2020 for the most part. So that would be something that we would have to consider.
So any of those unused funds could not be released to another entity that you don't currently have a contract with, because the contract had to be executed last year. So
The funding, so it's a little complicated that the funding had to be a part of this competitive process, and that was why we went through all those different presentations and things. So that's something that we have to discuss with our team, that we couldn't get this funding to a brand new project. It had to be something that was already presented upon. And so there was only the 3 projects that were selected for funding that AMA for the groundwater conservation project, and they were one of them. So that would be something we could discuss internally to see what we can actually do with that funding. If it cannot be reallocated to another project, and we would have to consider reopening the groundwater conservation grant in the AMA.
okay. Any what kind of timeline what we have coming up with for resolving what they used to treat it with them?
We expect we have a meeting next week internally. Arizona Water Company also wants to meet with their team. We're expecting to at least get an idea of what we're going to be doing in the next few weeks.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Are there any other questions for us on the presentation? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 8. Oh, 2 minutes, sorry. Okay. Getting excited. We need a GUAC recommendation with respect to the request from the IMS with respect to their funding request. The members have any questions or comments before we get the motion?
This is on the IMS.
Yes. If I may, Sharon? Yes, please.
The BMP project has been an integral aspect of the agricultural conservation plan, ADWR, since around the turn of the century, of about 2000. Things came into being with that. But when it first came into being, there was a large staff and a lot of things done at ADWR that aided and oversaw the running of the BNP program. As the years have gone by, what has happened is that more and more the interaction of BNP regulations and the regulated public have taken place in Pinal through the Irrigation Management Service. It is an essential branch actually to help run the code. Without the IMS service, there would be nobody on the ground whatsoever in the Pinal to help make all the things that are actually quite involved, make the BNP program function. Not only that, they still are involved in the conservation, irrigation, education mission that they were originally granted or tasked with, I should say. And they've all done this pretty much with not much difference in money over a long period of time. One thing I don't know if everybody is fully cognizant of is exactly how much is shared with the BNP program with both the NRCS as far as shared office space, the parking, various aspects of what it takes to run an entity like this, and also the NRCS or the NRCDs do a great deal of cost share with the IMS to also help out with their funding. In fact, some of the shortfalls have happened on this funding request. That is where the extra monies have come from. It's actually come from the NRCDs. So I would go ahead and again advise and suggest that the Irrigation Management Service is actually quite critical for the mission of the agricultural conservation program in the Pinal. I suggest that we vote to reinitiate it for another year at its suggested funding, which has been the same for a long time.
Thanks, Scott. Brian?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Brian here. Is that a motion?
I will make a motion exactly in that.
Thank you, Scott. I ditto BNP is vital. This team really great help to our irrigation districts and our farmers. So I will second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to recommend the renewal of that contract at the $100,000 rate. Do I have a roll call, please?
Sure, I'll make roll call. Chairman Collins?
Aye.
Supervisor Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Riggins?
Aye.
And Mr. Hartman?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Now we can move on to item number 8, which is the introduction of Idaho Electric Mining Company. This is for a presentation for informational only, and won't be any public discussion on this following the presentation. So with that, I will turn that over to the Idaho mining team, which I believe is Tammy Ballard, Tom White, and Hunter Moore. Would please present. I appreciate it. Yes.
Our attention.
I'm Tammy Ballard, the manager of maintenance and responsibility for Metro. We are not an electric company. We are doing installation out at the west of Granite. And we hope to develop So, we are led by our own great board, Robert Friedman, who's our founder. He is our chairman. He is no longer our CEO. Our CEO is now Taylor Feldman, who was already. And Robert Friedman also is the founder of Idaho Mines, which some of you may have heard of. Idaho Mines is global. Will be US based. And the electric is for electric metals and the electrification of it. We believe that the United States is significantly for these metals, and so our goal is to hopefully bring these metals from the United States to the United States. This operation here, we have two flagship operations. We have the Santa Cruz operation, which is here in California. We also have the Michigan, and several other projects that we are looking into throughout the United States, and is the one that is in front of us. The project is located entirely on private land. We have some technology enabled exploration that we use. It is proprietary to Idaho. It's called Pinal, and it helps to explore and also our vision is to use this along with renewable energy to maybe create a load footprint that looks more like an industrial facility than. This is just kind of top level. We're not strangers to copper here. In this area, there's several copper mines within the area. Started where we are, kind of right in the middle of everything. Arizona's produced 65% of U.S. copper production, and an estimated 35% of all the copper resources in Arizona lie along this copper belt. We have an option to acquire minerals the state. We have a right of first refusal in minerals and mineral rights, and we have a service use agreement with the current owner of the possessions. And that is for 3 years and we're negotiating. So this is just a timeline of the Santa Cruz project area. This deposit was discovered back in 1961. And a world-renowned geologist, David Lowell, explored the southwestern area of Arizona in the 70s, and his team they focused on this area, which is known as the Santa Cruz project area. And it's right below the campus mine. In the early 1980s, copper prices fell and it became active. And then in the 90s, Freeport memorandum partnered with the Bureau of Mines to do an in situ copper leaching pilot facility up in the same location in the Santa Cruz area. So that went on, they produced about 35,000 tons of copper cathode right there in that area. The in situ leach was successful in some ways and unsuccessful in others, but during the administration, the Bureau of Mines went away, funding was dropped, and they had to just have them move. So we are not looking at doing an in-situ leach project. The deposit is fairly deep. And that's what we're doing right now is we're exploring and we are drilling parallel holes to kind of prove the deposit and find it a little bit further. There is definitely some interesting stuff down there. And
if I may, I just want to make sure this is not planned to be an in-situ line.
Yeah.
We'll definitely want you to explain exactly what it's going to be.
Well, I don't know entirely yet, but I can give you some language. So we are exploring, we're doing trade-off studies, we're trying to figure that out. As our boss likes to say, we're still trying to figure out what we want to be doing. So we're in the very, very early stages of this project. As I said, we've mostly just been doing exploration drilling right now and providing that deposit. And now we are in the process of doing some trade-off studies to decide how we're going to get it out of the ground. So you can go ahead. This is just a picture of what we're looking at. So there's several deposits in that area and they're separated. The Santa Cruz deposit is the one that we are focused on and the one that we have the data on. We are exploring the Mexico deposit deposit, which is a little bit higher above the Santa Cruz Wash Canal. We did some exploration in the Park Sawyer area, which is also kind of an area where desert smart cactus is operating as well. And we don't see anything happening with that, but we'll explore the further. Right now, we're focused on the Santa Cruz deposit, and we have drilled some holes to try to understand the geology of everything and the way the water community and how we can safely and environmentally do this in a way that doesn't have as much impact as a lot of things. This is a picture of some of the stuff that we're finding. Everybody loves pictures. It's a really high grade copper deposit, and what makes it interesting is a lot of it is you might be better than me. We can get it out of the ground and produce it right here in that area, and then maybe some when we're done. It's got a lot of soluble metals in it, so we can do SXW and different types of ways to extract the copper from the ground. So that is what makes it attractive. Not to mention the and this is just, it just shows where we are in comparison with the other mines in the area. This slide is from October of last year. So some of these numbers may have changed, but we have a pretty significant deposit that we're looking at, and it could provide.
Before you move on to the next slide.
Yeah.
Can you define what is meant by contained and inferred?
So contained is indicated, which means we studied it and we have data to back it up. Inferred is we know it's there. There's maybe some historical data, but we still need to study it further to get it instead indicated. So this is just a picture. Oh, this is an old slide. So, but this is mostly aside from that top little portion, that's no longer of interest to us. So you can kind of just draw that up above the Catchment Highway. But below is the legend property. That is where we have the service use agreement and where the minerals are located. So where the old situation development facility is located. This is the area that we're operating in. The Santa Cruz deposit, as you saw the previous slide, is and the land it's been developed, it's been used for agricultural use, undeveloped housing, the old pilot facility, and that's still pretty much what is used. It is used for today. There's recreational use, but people do recreate out there. It's also been kind of a dumping area, which we've been trying to work on cleaning up, and we'll continue to do that. So, as part of this project, we're going to have to do a lot of community outreach, and we want to bring our stakeholders along the journey with us. That's why we're here. We want you to know who we are and what we're about from the very beginning, so we don't have all the information that you may be interested in. We plan to share that with you as we get more information and come to these meetings. And also, we've been communicating with the Forest Tribes and around the project area as you can see. And so we want to keep everybody involved and we also are interested in hearing what you guys have to say. So by the end of this year, I'm going to develop a community working group, which will have several key stakeholders sitting on it, and it'll be open to the public. And we will use that forum as a way to keep you informed, educate you, and give you the opportunity to ask questions and talk about what your thoughts are. So hopefully all of that has been going. And people, there will be key stakeholders that we'll reach out to. So if you have anything that's interested, let me know. And then now I'm going to turn it over to Tom, who is, let me introduce yourself, but he's going to talk about the water in the area and what we're doing studying that.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, my name is Tom Lye, I'm a senior hydrologist with Idaho Electric. And Mr. Riggins, just to answer your question from water will be underground. If you have further questions, I'd be happy to get you the answers. So this is just a map here of all of our current testing going on at the Santa Cruz site. So due to the land use agreement, the details of that, we haven't been drawing metals. So the best we can do from a hydro standpoint is install vibrating wireless gasometers and packer testing with the existing boreholes around here, so that the geologists are using for their exploration reasons. So just to kind of give you a high level overview, these are the existing BWP holes that we're installing currently, and then some packer testing. Packer testing, which would be hydro activity values, BWPs, which are monitoring points for further testing. And I apologize, I know some of you have your backgrounds, you can almost be explained further these.
If you would explain what the VWP is again, what that.
Yeah, vibrating wireline gasometer. So it's basically a device that gets grouted in, and you grout it in to allow water to infiltrate into it, so we can measure and get you an actual.
Those boreholes.
Some of them go fairly deep, 500 feet, 3,000 feet. Next slide, please. And this is just a cross section showing a cross section for the previous plan view. These are the button colored dots are the vibrating wire gasometers that are installed. And I think that's it on that slide. Next, please. This is our proposed 2023 work, which will happen in August of this year. We will be getting access to land in separate wells, and we will be drilling a couple of deep wells roughly 2,600 feet in large diameter, and we will be conducting long-term pumping tests on those wells to further characterize the site hydrogeologically, and also monitoring. Next slide, please. This is a map view of the previous slide, just showing where those wells are going. It's pending results from the model that Montgomery Associates is currently. I know that was a lot, but any questions anyone can ask for better game section behind you?
Members have any questions for the presentation? Sure. Yes. Go ahead, Sam.
So if this is to be an underground line, I assume that it's going to be deep enough that it will have shielding bedrock to hold out groundwater intrusion?
I understand your question correctly. You're concerned about issue?
No. What I'm concerned about is that you either naturally don't have to deal with groundwater, or you have to get it out of the way. So are you talking about having to vacate groundwater over this side to be able to do this one?
Yeah, so we're still reviewing options. We'll most likely have an access to deal with. How to deal with that is still in the repeating stage where we're at. It could result in disturbance to their stakeholders, result to keeping some of that water in the ground. It's just where we're at currently.
People see me far. A couple weeks ago, and kind of go through what we're thinking and what we're seeing, and it's likely that we will need a 15 minute farm. We don't know for certain yet. We have a water rights in the land. But
what sort of water rights to the land?
we have type 1 water rights, and then we also have irrigation rights.
And those are use rights.
So we're studying everything and trying to get some numbers, and that's the stage that we're at right now. We will likely have more information in I guess that we're still looking at all of this stuff, but we're meeting the patients doing our due diligence, trying to figure out what we're going to need to do if you have an excess of water and how we want to distribute and.
It's interesting. I'm surprised, but I didn't realize that from this initial paperwork I saw that was the direction that things were going. It certainly will be an enormously problematic political environment because a groundwater supply area for both municipal and agriculture doesn't want to respond real well to area-wide water. That is a major challenge. I can point to the historical reference of the Poston Butte, which is now Florence Copper mining area that began in the 50s with a pilot underground works that they finally figured that they just couldn't keep the water out of it, which is too much. And so they decided to turn it into an open pit mine, which then had 25, 30 years of incredible legal and political battles because it was proven that what they wanted to do was dewater a corner depression 20 miles in diameter to do what they wished to do, which eventually became absolutely politically impossible for them to go forward. The Gila River Indian Reservation is downstream from that. You also have the Eagle River downstream. You and also off Chin, very close. So there might be all sorts of solutions to this. There might be ways that the two folks have it all figured out, but certainly in this presentation, I believe you created more questions than you give answers.
So, and I know that that was a possibility, but like I said, we are studying, we are studying it very diligently, and we know that there's an impact. We know that there's political situations, and we are trying to do our best to get ahead of it, which is why we wanted to introduce you to who we are doing so that we can, I mean, these are great comments and great things for us to take into consideration when we're studying this. But we will have more information. There are a lot of ways that we can mitigate impact, and that's what we're studying right now to be the lowest impact with the least impact. And so there's technology has come so far that there's a lot of different rates to impact. And so we're taking all of those and seeing what is possible and what is impact. And then hopefully by Q3, end of Q3, we'll have an initial assessment to release, and then we'll be able to come back with more information and answer a lot of questions that you might have. We still have a long way to go, but we are looking at it. And we just want you to know we're here, we're working on it, and we're happy to hear from you. If you want, we're the old company building, so if you ever want to come by and visit,
You're where?
the old company lumberyard building. So I have to be there, and we have a video on our told you because, and then we're working with Hunter on the political and the community side, and we've been a great help. So we are boots on the ground, we're doing everything we can to get this project off the ground and in good way. We want to be a part of the solution.
And I have no doubt that that's true. And I have no doubt that you all realize the challenge and the demographic that you're in. Albeit to say, an underground mine could produce what this possibly could would be a wonderful economic boon in Pinal County. By the same token, the western part of the Pinal AMA is a strictly groundwater area. That's all it is. There is no surface water there. Water was lost. Now it belongs to someone else. And being a strictly groundwater region that is developing quite nicely right now. There's a great deal of industry, population, houses. Those centers are growing very well. A bright future is ahead. So I would say that we will all be very, very interested to hear what you all have in mind and you have a little bit more in mind what's going to be.
that's going to tell you what to say.
Thank you. Sounds like we have an opportunity for, if you do the break, back it up report at our September GUAC meeting. Sounds like we'll have a higher level. Brian, did you have a question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for being here today, being public and exposing yourself to questions. So we know who to go to answers. For full disclosure, I serve on the Maricopa Sandfield Irrigation Drainage District, and I farm just below your operation, potential operation. So as Scott alluded to, we too have some concerns. We, for the last 30 years, we've used a lot of primarily surface water through the CAP system. And we cut a deal and relinquished that. And we were supposed to have water until 2030. But as you know, due to the drought, that did not occur. So the water table has come up significantly. And it's pretty public. I think the John Kyle Center has basin studies, and we're a blue area. So we're really counting, Scott alluded to, we're going to be a 99% groundwater pump. So we're really relying on what we built up over the years. So that would be a concern on the watering in that zone. And then also another concern would be subsidence. We used to have a lot of subsidence pre-CAP. I don't hear any talk of it. So those are a couple of things.
Yeah, just on that, we're aware it's a tangled, very involved situation, very involving multiple stakeholders. So we don't have any further information on common direction, affecting local stakeholders in the way that setting bigger than the experience possible. Share us on everyone who will.
We'll work with you. We hope not to be, but I mean, if we were to get the 5-year commitment into our pool, we should distribute it. So between now and we can come back to the table. So that's what we're as we get more alert and understand more what we're doing.
And to give you a sense of how where we are, first drill hole was drilled in follow up 2021.
What probably do we want to
Now we're two as of today. So we have a lot of
and we've actually met with Ryan Yurkus a couple months ago, and we are aware that this so we are open to solutions. We think it's going to be a part of the solution.
Chairman? Yes, sir. It will be very interesting to see what your solutions actually going to be. The situation, the analogous situation that I mentioned at Florence Copper, there was over 50 years, maybe 60 years of absolute attempts, thoughts, political resistance, various aspects that took all the plans, and eventually the only thing that came out of it is very well could be an inserting line, which is exactly the technology that used American working with, and made it so all those enormous difficulties of dewatering an area that totally depends on groundwater for what? Obviously, they have to control their flows, like in city line does. But this is going to be interesting to see how we approach it, because it is a problem in the clinical line. I very much agree with GUAC member Hartman that just downstream of the groundwater flow side of the flows is an enormous amount of development. It's trying to be a lot bigger than it is. And it's totally dependent on the ground qualities there. And, just even to talk about this, I'm sure will make a lot of people really interested. So we look forward to another presentation in September. The fourth stage.
And I forgot to mention this, all the cities were doing their, whatever you would look at. More information.
All right, do any members have any more comments? Yes, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just say, I heard a couple of things here. Excess water, so that sounds to me as if you put in some water, if you have more than you need. And then I also heard you say, to put it back into the system somehow, in the area, which is getting extracted. So I'm going to take the half full glass and say there are solutions out there. I think technology has changed, and just do the best you can and keep us informed.
Right, thank you for your presentation. Look forward to hearing from you. Down the road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. This is on to item 9, which is called to the council. Anything that wish to bring up? Hearing none, move on to item 10, which is called to the public. Is there any public who wishes to speak? All right. Hearing none, I would say that we move on to item 11, which is to adjourn. You're not even calling for motions, Chairman? No. My God, I wasn't forward.